Well, LifeBlood, this is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Chandler Bolt. Chandler, are you ready to do this?
Let's do it. George, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, excited to have you on. Let's go. Chandler is the CEO of Self Publishing School. He's a member of Forbes 30 Under 30. He's a six-time author, an investor, and advisor. He is the author of his newest book, published From Blank Page to 10,000 Copies Sold. Chandler, tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a C-level English student and a college dropout with ADHD. So kind of the last person you would ever think would write books. But I went from someone who hated reading and hated writing to someone who kind of really fell in love with books. And I believe that books change lives. That's why we do what we do at selfpublishing.com and self-publishing school. I mean, that's why we do what we do. So we're in the business of changing lives through books. We've published about 6,000 books over the last 7 years. So a lot of books published, a lot of books to go. Our mission is 100,000 books by 2035. So we made a lot of progress. We got a long way to go, but that's a little bit about me and big picture on the business and where we're heading, that sort of thing.
I love it. So from C student to 6,000 books in 7 years.
There you go.
Awesome.
There's the hook for the interview.
Boom. Making my job easy. So what did you like hit your head on something and you're like, oh my gosh, was it an epiphany? How did the switch happen?
Yeah, I have hit my head a few times in my life, but that wasn't it. It was kind of, I wrote and published a couple books. They did decently well. I did it as kind of a fun side project as I was dropping out of school. And then people said, hey, how are you doing this? And it's one of those things where, I just get on the phone with people for an hour for free just to be a nice person and say, hey, you're launching a book, do this, 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 and this. And then finally that happened so often that I just kind of said, hey, you can only get smacked in the face so many times before you turn around and look. And you turn around and look, and there's this whole line of people that won't help with that thing. So that ultimately led me to create what became Self-Publishing School. And we started helping other people publish their books. And then that was when I realized, oh, wow, this is really powerful, like kind of what we've discovered here. And then just started doubling down. And it's just been, a lot of growth since then.
Yeah. I think it's super exciting. And so the growth of the self-publishing industry, I don't know how far back that goes. It feels like it hasn't been around for that long. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd say it's been around for maybe a couple decades, really more than that, but it was just so hard. It was so difficult that no one did it. And, it was kind of the backup plan. It was like, oh, if you're self-published, you couldn't get a publishing deal. It was the thing that you did if you couldn't get a publishing deal, right? And so now it really has become the preferred option for a lot of authors. And that's, with the rise of Amazon, we feel like we've been on kind of the cutting edge of that as well. It's just making self-publishing more mainstream, putting the power back in the hands of authors so that they can keep their royalties, they can keep their IP, they can publish faster, they can publish better books. It used to be that you had to publish, to sell books, you had to be in bookstores, right? To be in bookstores, you had to have a publisher, to have a publisher, you have to have an agent. So it's kind of like all these gatekeepers that are deciding what gets published. And then with the rise of Amazon, over 70% of all books are sold on Amazon and other online book retailers. And you don't need a publisher to sell or distribute there, right? So that's really kind of democratized the publishing industry and made opportunities for people like you and me who want to publish and who have something valuable to say. And so that's really been the driving force behind our mission and what we're doing. And so we're just trying to enable that for more people so that they can choose the alternate path, kind of like the Uber to the taxi industry, if you will.
Yeah, well, I think it's a super powerful thing. I'm a lover of books and consuming books. I don't know that I love reading. I love listening to books, but I guess I like reading anyway. What's important?
Like having read.
Yeah. So it strikes me, of those books that are self-published on Amazon, I feel like you got a lot of people that are doing it just because they want to say they have a book published. So when I read the title of your book, 10,000 copies sold, that strikes me as maybe that's sort of the sweet spot in between just self-publishing for the sake of doing it, having a literary agent and all the gatekeepers, and then self-publishing schools in the middle. or
Yeah,
somewhere?
I like to think so. I mean, I think it's, I always say your self-published book shouldn't look self-published.
Hmm.
So don't just put out a crappy book and slap it together and put it on Amazon just because you want to have a book. I think the world doesn't need more of that. But if you're intentional about it, it can be one of the best things you do to grow your business. And a lot of people say a book is the new business card. I think it's better than a business card, because if you give someone a business card, let's be honest, they're probably going to throw it away within 24 hours. If you give them a book, though, they keep that book. They just might read that book. And every time they see that book, they think of you, your business, and how you can help them. And so I look at, how do you use the book to get more leads, sales, and referrals for your business, kind of specifically those three buckets. And then how do you publish a quality book that will sell more copies, sell 10,000 copies, that's genuinely adding value in solving a problem for your target audience.
Love it. And I think that that's the idea that the book is the new business card, I think is a clever idea, but what you just talked about, I think is 100% true, that it's 100% going to stick with them and they might actually read it, and it's nothing but a positive thing. Do you have a sense of like, it strikes me that 10,000 copies sold, that's a successful book.
Yeah, it's a very successful book. I mean, the average self-published book sells, I want to say it's 100 or less copies,
I believe it.
which is just, I mean, that sucks. That's not great. And now granted, traditionally published books, a lot of them don't sell well either. You've got kind of, it's very similar to the venture capital investing, where you've got kind of your big bucket, 8 out of 10 are going to lose and not earn back their advance even. Then you've got one or two, maybe one or two, which will be, base hits, singles, doubles. And then you've got maybe 1 out of 10 as unicorns, and not always even that much. And that's the model, right? Is so investor, or as publishers, they're placing bets. And then if your book doesn't do well, or if you don't have a massive audience, they're not going to accept you. They're not going to give you an advance. And so there's this weird thing where 8 out of 10 are like, man, that sucked. And now publisher doesn't care about me or my book, and the book's not selling well. And then there's that 1 out of 10, the unicorn, which is like, man, that sucked. My publisher didn't do that much work. It's selling like crazy and they're making all the money. So it's kind of I feel like it doesn't really create happy customers. It's this thing that people know has been broken for a long time. Again, similar to the taxi industry when Uber came along or Lyft came along. And so it's, our goal is to help people, and so 10,000 is an aspirational goal for a lot of people. And maybe you'll get there over 2-3 years, or maybe you'll hit it within the first few months, first couple of weeks, if you've got a real big audience and that sort of thing, and you can get behind it and have a strategic marketing plan to sell more books.
I love it. So what should I expect, or who should come talk to you at Self-Publishing School?
Yeah. So I'd say we typically help people in one of 3 buckets. Bucket 1 is someone who's dreamed about writing a book for a long time. It's part of their legacy, and they're like, I've got to do it. Bucket 2 is someone who wants to make an impact with their book. And so someone who they feel like that, hey, this is part of my legacy. And I just want to write this book, and maybe it leads to something, maybe it doesn't. And then bucket number 3, which I think this is probably a lot of people listening here, is people who want to strategically use a book to grow their business. And that's where I think it's one of the most powerful things that you can do. And I think we're the best in the world at figuring out how to write a great book that gets more leads, sales, and referrals for your business. And so those are the people that where it makes sense to contact us or read my new book or that sort of thing. And then we can see how we can help.
So how are you better than others? How are you the best in the world?
Yeah, I think there's a few different ways. So, I mean, first and foremost, we help people get books done. So we save people hundreds of hours in the process. We save them thousands of dollars in the process. And we help them publish a better book that sells more copies. And it's really the part of publishing that no one wants to touch, which is getting your manuscript finished. Everyone else says, hey, like, come to me when you've got it done, and we'll publish it, and come to me when you've got it done, or you've got a massive audience and you can sign a contract, and you have to get it done. And so we help people, like we hold them accountable. We have coaches that work with them one-on-one throughout the process. That's very rare. They're all best-selling authors. We have curriculum, we have templates, we have tools, everything that's just built to save people time, to save people money, and to help people write a better book. And so we're really good at that piece. And then secondly, I think we're just great at marketing. That's the, we've got a proven process that helps people sell more books. Now, it's not a silver bullet or get rich quick or any of that stuff. But it helps increase people's odds of being successful, and it helps them sell more books. And so that's the piece where we're really good at. And then I guess maybe thirdly, it's I practice what I preach, and we practice what we preach. So it's, if you want to use a book to grow your business, like that specifically, and getting really tactical, and this is exactly how you do it. I mean, I talk about this in my new book. There's a whole chapter on this, is how to use the book to your book to get more lead sales and referrals. And so that's where I think we help people strategically position that in a way that can lead to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in revenue. For me, it's millions of dollars a year in revenue from people who find my book, read my book, and end up doing business with self-publishing school.
Nice. So what kind of an investment are we talking about from a time perspective? Does it depend?
Yeah, it depends. It's the least favorite answer. It depends. But it's, I typically say it's, if you can give it a half an hour to an hour a day, you can get a draft done in 90 days to 6 months. Now that's every day. And so, that's no small time commitment, but it's a short-term investment for a long-term asset that you will literally have for the rest of your life and after you're off this earth. So that's how I look at it. And I did this last year to prove that it can be done at the highest level. With my newest book, I went from picking up the pen to launching in 105 days. And that was, now I spent a lot more time than a half hour a day, but that was, running a company with 30, 40 employees, having a bunch of life stuff going on, company stuff going on, and still did it just because I wanted to prove that, hey, this can be done. Because that's everyone's biggest excuse, right? Is either I don't have time or the timing isn't right. And so I wanted to show, hey, this is possible. And it's not a crappy book. I think it's a really great book, and quality content, but it was definitely a short-term sacrifice. That was a tough 105 days. But I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that certainly makes sense. Do you have a target length for books? Is there a sweet spot?
Yeah. So there's kind of, it depends on the type of book. And so, there's kind of, if you're nonfiction, you're going to be somewhere between 30 to 60,000 words. If you're doing kind of like a lead magnet type book, that might even be as low as 15 to 30,000 words. But that's the typical kind of target length that I recommend. I was trying to flip through pages. There's I've got a little fancy graphic. Oh, nobody will be able to see this, I guess, since this is audio. But it's page 57 in the new book. There's kind of like this little graphic thing that shows all the, children's books are shorter, novellas or fiction books are longer, obviously. And so that's kind of the target range.
Got it. That makes sense. 30 to 60,000 words, or just 15 to 30,000 if it's some kind of a lead magnet. Yeah, I could see where you could definitely get that done in, I think, 90 days, no problem, so long as you do commit to that 30 to 60 minutes a day. And
Totally.
Once you get in the rhythm, I mean, I bet fewer words get written over the first 3 months, and the most of it probably, even if you're doing an hour a day, towards the end, that you're really kind of in the flow of it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Nice. All right. And so you've got the templates and coaches, and do I have to have an idea, or is that something that you coach me through?
Yeah, we coach people through that. So, some people come to us with no ideas. Some people come to us with a very specific idea. Some people come to us with like 5 ideas. And we've got to wrangle their focus on one, because we only have 2 rules when we're working with people. Rule number 1 is you can't edit while you write. We all know someone who has 5 perfectly written chapters in their unfinished book, right? And so you can't edit while you write. And then rule number 2 is you can't write more than 1 book at a time. And so our goal is to help people focus on one idea. Now, whether they have that when they come with us or not, or come to us or not, our goal is to help them focus on that one idea and then write that one idea and get that draft done.
For those people who are listening, Stop trying to write 2 or 3 or 4 books at the same
Yes.
time.
Yes. Absolutely. Everybody thinks they're the exception to that rule. But spoiler alert, you're not. You've got to focus on one book and write that book first. And then, that's the cool thing about learning how to write a book is like, it's kind of like learning how to ride a bike. Once you do it, you can keep doing it over and over and over again, but you won't know the process if you don't fully do it once.
Yeah. All right. And so I get it done, and then y'all help me from from soup, obviously, from idea iterations. I actually write the thing. You're going to then package it up, and you're going to work with me on my strategy for actually distributing the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our goal is that we walk people through, we break it down in 8 milestones, but the final few are the production piece. And we actually do a lot of that for people. So we'll format their book. We'll create a best-selling book cover. We'll upload it to Amazon. We'll buy them an ISBN, like all the kind of like that final mile of the publishing journey. That's a big pain, and just all these logistics. We do all that for people so that they can focus their time on writing a better book and then marketing and launching that book. And so we walk people through that process as well and help them, teach them to market, and sell more copies of the book, use it to grow the business, all that good stuff.
Nice. I love it. Beautiful. What have I forgotten to ask here? What is another, maybe a key or two that people overlook or don't think enough about?
I mean, I think the hardest part is getting your rough draft done. And most people are either they don't start or they stall out before getting their rough draft done. So many people listening, they're probably in that bucket. They're not sure whether they should get started, or maybe they've started a book a few times and just weren't able to get it finished. And so really that's where we focus a lot of our energy with people, because we know if we can just get them past that rough draft finish line, you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You start to believe this is possible. It's a lot downhill from there. And so that would be my maybe additional advice for people, or maybe even parting piece of advice would be, is there's never a perfect time to start writing your book. You're going to have to get started before you're ready. What I would encourage you to do is, as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, grab a blank sheet of paper, draw a circle in the middle of the page, and write your book idea in that middle of that circle. Set a timer for 15 minutes and write out everything that you can think of on that topic. So what are the life lessons that you've learned? What are the ideas you have? What are stories that you have? Again, everything that you can think of around that topic. And you're going to be on your way to writing your book. And so that's where, that's milestone 1 in the 8 milestones. I call this the MORE writing method. MORE is an acronym. It's mind map, outline, rough draft, editing. And so that mind map, that's the first step. That's where I recommend that people get started, and you'll realize you got a whole lot more that you can say in this book than you probably think.
Well, I think that is great stuff. That definitely gets, come on. I was going to ask you for another difference making tip, Chandler, but I realized that was really the one right there. So
that's it. That's it.
Well, Chandler, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can they engage with Self-Publishing School? Where can they get a copy of Published?
Yeah. So probably two best paths forward. Number one is if you'd like to check out my new book, it's called Published: The Proven Path from Blank Page to 10,000 Copies Sold. You can find this on Amazon. You're listening to this podcast, you're probably an audiobook person or audio content consumer. I read the audiobook. You can find it on Audible. It's kind of a fun conversation. But if you'd like to get a free physical copy of the book, for the first 50 listeners of this podcast that go to this link, I created a link specifically for you. So it's publishedbook.com/George. So published book, like I published a book.com/George. Go there, no strings attached. Just tell me where to send it. You don't have to pay for anything. I'm covering all the costs. So I'll print it, pack it, ship it. That's where you can get a copy of the book. And then if you're interested in working with us at Self-Publishing School, you can book a call with my team at self-publishingschool.com/apply. Go to that page, book a call with the team. We'd be happy to chat with you about your book, your goals, your next steps, and how we might be able to help.
Love it. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Chandler your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Get a free copy of Chandler's book published at publishedbook.com/George. And he will print it and ship it, send it to you. I'll put that in the notes of the show. And if you are one of those many people out there with that book idea, it's trying to get out of you, but it just can't, go to self-publishingschool.com/apply and have a conversation and see if it's a good fit for you. Thanks again, Chandler.
Thanks, George.
And until next time, keep fighting the good fight. We are all in this together.